Hello, Tar Heel Nation. We're back. Another episode of UNC Hoops Talk podcast. I'm your host, Dan DeWitt. I feel like it's a new week, new podcast, same old story. But we're gonna try to talk through it here. I'm gonna try to make it hopefully different. Talk about some different topics here. Hit some different points. Um, I don't know. We'll see. But I do. Thank you for joining in either live on YouTube. If you're not subscribed yet, UNC Hoops Talk on YouTube, you'll get it. Or just a YouTube put at UNC Hoops Talk. You'll find it. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. You can join us live here, join the conversation. We should get some people in here chatting soon, unless everybody's just kind of over it. But if not, if you are listening this later on a audio podcast app or platform, appreciate and love you too. Thank you for supporting the podcast, sharing all that good stuff. But I guess we jump in. So we last podcasted. The Tar Heels were 5-2, coming off of Portland and going 1-2 out there. We knew we were headed to Indiana into a top 10 ranked team, and it wasn't going to be easy. The environment was going to be outstanding, all that stuff. And like Lori says here, I'm not well, and it didn't go well either. The Tar Heels didn't really put up much of a fight against number 10 Indiana. Ended up losing 77-65, and I kind of said this in the Alabama game, the 4 overtime one out in Portland. But it kind of happened here is like I feel like we're just gonna make enough shots, do just enough to where it's not like a blowout. It doesn't look horrible, but it never really felt like we had a chance. And it's pretty much how this one went. It's just a 12-point loss to the number 10 team in the country at their home. Crazy environment at Indiana, but it just never felt like we were in it. Armando gets banged up in it, his shoulder. You can kind of see it didn't seem like he was completely 100% anyway from his ankle before. It kind of same old story. Pete Nance led us 15 points, 12 rebounds. Armando had 12 and 10. Another double, but not much to get. Caleb Love gave us 13 only, and I say only because again he was coming off that Alabama game shooting 36 times, but only shot 16 times, but was 5 for 16, 2 for 7 from the 3-point line. Pete Nance 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. RJ added an 11, but was 4 for 11 from shooting. You could say, hey, we got some bench scoring. We got 6 from Puff in 14 minutes, 5 from DeMarco in 17 minutes, and 3 from Seth Trimble in 9 minutes. And that's pretty much where I got it. But it's same old story. We got out rebounded only by 1. We actually had more offensive rebounds than them. Ended up with 5 assists. That's becoming kind of a big talking point now is, we've had games with 4 assists twice now, I think, that tied, North Carolina all-time lead or lowest since whatever it was, 80s, 70s, wherever it was. For them, Trace Jackson Davis goes off 21 and 10, felt like 4 blocks. He kind of dominated. They also had a Xavier Johnson that had 20 points. And again, didn't get blown out, but just never really was in it either. And it just didn't seem like we were in it even. And afterwards, I know Hubert Davis said we don't have the low post scorer where we can throw it in and he can just get us buckets like they did with Trace Jackson Davis. And some people saying maybe taking a shot at Armando Bacot and the way he was playing. Again, he was banged up. He had the ankle out in Portland. His shoulder, something happened to it early in the game. Kind of battled through it. Again, wasn't efficient. 4 for 10 from shooting. Like I said, 12 points, 10 rebounds. Some foul trouble with him and Pete Nance as well. Both ended up in 4. And so that leads us into the Virginia Tech game. And I think it was Inside Carolina podcast too, mentioned kind of how brutal the stretch was of, 3 games out in Portland, 3 games in 4 days. Don't come home, go straight to Bloomington, play there. Again, top 10 team. come home, turn around, and during finals time, go to Blacksburg and play there. But um, really poor effort in the first half at Blacksburg. Let's see, I don't know that I have the halftime score, but it wasn't good. I know at some point game, I think everybody was saying our lowest or the biggest lead for them was 18 points. We were down by 18 at one point. Second half, we showed some life, started playing some bench, and we got it down to three with not a lot of time left. It was 5 minutes, something like that left. And then they kind of went on a run, put it away, and that was it. So maybe back up a little bit. Big story in this one is DeMarco Dunn did not play, broken hand. I'm guessing out for at least a couple weeks with a broken left hand that happened in practice. And then Armando Bacot did not play in this game with that sore shoulder. Um, and Hubert would not call it, that he was hurt, or would not say that he was hurt or injured, just that he had soreness, that it was up to Armando, didn't feel like he could go. And so Puff Johnson got the start. But what's kind of interesting to me too is Puff got the start, only played 12 minutes. You think of all those minutes that Armando opens up. And again, I don't know. He could have got more than 12 minutes. Didn't give us much in those 12 minutes. A steal, a foul, and was over 2 from the field. I know his 3 that he took was way off, kind of rushed it. But Tyler Nickel got 25 minutes. Seth Trumbull got 22. And it kind of seemed like in the second half, he finally is like throwing stuff out, see who's going to play hard. And those guys kind of stepped up. And so maybe they got more minutes. But it's like, again, Puff is one that you had trusted up to this point, and then all of a sudden only gets 12 in this one. So Pete Nance, RJ Davis, Caleb Love all had 18 points. Pete Nance 10 rebounds. We only had 4 offensive rebounds in this one. Again, going back to the Indiana game, we actually had more offensive rebounds than it was 12-9. Armando had 5 by himself. In this game, we only have 4 offensive rebounds, and in a game where we shot so poorly. Field goal percentage was 47% overall, 3 for 17 for 3 for 18% on the game there. Wasn't good. Again, Caleb Love only 10 shots in this one. Some people were saying it kind of felt like he was making a statement and not shooting as much because he heard the criticism of poor shot selection and how many he took out in the Alabama game and stuff. So 5 for 10. Early foul trouble as well kind of hampered him some, and RJ for that matter. Leaky Black in 25 minutes only gave us 2 points. And again, all those stats that we usually get from Leaky, he only had 1 rebound, 1 assist, and 2 blocks. And again, it was a very uninspiring, especially first half. And again, somewhere in the second half, they got it going. And again, we were right there, 3 points. We ended up losing, where's my final score? 80-72. So again, it's kind of that same thing as now this one in the second half, we did show a little bit of heart, and it felt like, we wanted it in the second half, and really we could have. And to have it at 3 at that point, and again, with a lot of subs playing in, Dontrez only played 9 minutes, but he got some chances in there. Shot it. I mean, he was willing to shoot it. I don't know if he shot it confidently, but 0 for 3 didn't give us much in those 9 minutes. But um, at least giving other people chances and seeing what they can do and see who's going to play hard. This is the kind of point in season where Roy Williams would have made a change in the starting lineup. He would have subbed out the entire starting 5 for the blue squad or whatever. And I mean, again, we saw a little bit of that from Hubert Davis, but it's still not the same. I don't know. It just feels like he's like, hey, you guys want me to play my subs? I'll throw them out there. And then they didn't look ready. I saw somebody's tweet. I don't remember, to give them credit. I don't know who it was, but it's like, this is why you play those subs in the James Madison game, the Gardner Webb game, the Charleston game, UNC Wilmington game, because now they're playing minutes in the ACC opener, and they just look overwhelmed. They don't look ready, all that stuff. And so, I mean, it is what it is. But it's not going to get any easier here. And now we're getting that same narrative as last year: is where do we get the quality wins? Where do we have to win just to kind of get a decent seed or get into the tournament? And people are saying maybe this team feels like they can flip the switch like they did last year, but the ACC is down again this year. Florida State looks horrible. Louisville is horrendous. Um, Syracuse doesn't look good. There's a lot of kind of bad teams, and then Duke looks all right, but they haven't really beat anybody. Played Kansas okay in the Champions Classic. Um, they got Iowa tomorrow night, maybe today, as you're seeing this. Virginia looks really good. And again, we play both those teams, I think, twice. But if we can beat Virginia, especially at Virginia, let alone at home, and then beating Duke too, that would be kind of our quad one chances once we get to the ACC play. And we have a couple more. We'll talk about that here. We'll get into what's coming up here on the schedule in a little bit. But we got JB2, who, side note, we have started up the scores prediction contest again. So every game, doing a little bit different, putting out a YouTube clip so you can join the contest either on YouTube or Twitter with your score prediction. JB2 tied for the victory on that. That was 2 games. That was Indiana game. So unfortunately, had to pick against the Heels, but did do that. So be looking for that though. Day before, day of the game day. Obviously, your score prediction has to be in before tip off of the game for it to count. But be looking at that. So he says the only reason I have some optimism is the fact the schedule is absolutely brutal. So I don't know if our schedule is brutal unless you're looking at the ACC. We still got a couple of big time games coming up here: Ohio State, Michigan. Again, we'll get into that here in a little bit, but there are chances for wins. But again, we need the quality wins. We got to win the right ones, and that's what people were saying about the Indiana game. Is it's not necessarily a must win because of what our record was or where we were ranked and how far we had dropped and stuff like that, but is must win because we need a good, a true road game like that out of conference top 10 team would have been a great win, not to mention how much confidence it would have gave our guys. So he also goes on to say, at what point do we start looking at Hubert and placing blame there? The team always assumes the identity of its coach, and in year 2 we're seeing a lot of the same issues as year 1. Yeah, I mean, obviously the way last year ended, he's gained some extra time or whatever you want to say. I mean, I think we did last year, at least I did on this podcast, talking about, you have to play the subs, kind of questioned that a little bit as we got into some of those brutal games, December and stuff, some of those blowouts. I remember, questioning kind of some of the sets we were playing and the way we were playing. And then obviously it clicked and it's like, okay, did the guys just decide to play defense to play together and get it going, or did Hubert make some kind of adjustment? Obviously, we know the whole, Dawson Garcia leaving, and maybe there was some chemistry issues, and then Brady Manick kind of stepped up into a leadership role, and we kind of got it figured out. But, yeah, I mean, I think we have to look at we're not getting easy points. We're not running on the break like a Carolina team. We're not dumping to the post, getting easy points that way or kicking out to open. I mean, we're dribbling a lot of ball screens, and then the shot clock is down and somebody jacks up a contested shot. And it is coaching when, you're not getting any offense like that when it's that brutal. So, I mean, I think we have to look at it. I'm not to the point to where it's like, hey, we need to look at who's going to replace Hubert. But as far as question, maybe some of the stuff we're emphasizing and some of the stuff we're running in that, absolutely. So and obviously again, it's been talked about, Hubert's a really positive guy. Maybe they do need a little fire lit on them. People are calling for, hey, put some guys on the bench and teach them a lesson, or motivate them through sitting on the bench and watching instead of playing. That can go the other way as well, but people are obviously saying try something of this. So we got Wing Chu meditation here. Says laughing, panic time, you people are delusional. We will be there when it counts. Are you fans? Are you bandwagon fans? Or are you Tar Heels? So okay, I mean, calling us out, but he says Virginia is the best team in the ACC. I think there's no doubt about that. I think they're ranked the highest. Yeah, I don't think there's any question of that. As far as panic time, I mean, I don't know. Wing Chu, I guess you can answer then. Like, what teams do you look at on our on our schedule that are quality wins and say those are guaranteed wins, or you're confident even that we're going to beat that team. Um, and so Christian is here. How's it going? Good to have you back. Since our schedule wasn't brutal, they were all winnable. What do you think is going on with these guys? So, I mean, I think it was a brutal schedule to be again away from home that much, to be out in Portland. And again, they talked about it a little bit. I don't think it's an excuse. I'm not saying that's why they played bad even or anything like that, but to be gone that long, in Portland, there was, I think the first game was I think it was noon for me in Central Time here. So they're out in Pacific Time. So it was like 10 o'clock in the morning that they're playing that game against Portland. And then the next one was, I think, well, since we lost, or no, we won that one. So it was like a 5:30 game for me. So they're playing middle of the afternoon. Okay, that one's fine. And then I think the last one was later at night. So they're playing at all different times. And then went straight to Indiana. So then they were on Central Time, and that game tipped at like at 9:30, I think, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. No, I think it was 9:30, not Eastern either. So they're used to the Eastern Time. It was 9:30 Central, 10:30, kind of what they know, and then to come back and to play the ACC opener as finals are going on. Remember, the NCAA calls these guys student athletes, students first. They got to concentrate on their finals and all that stuff first, and you can say what you want about that system and all that, but they at least had to take tests and had to be studying and all that stuff. So I think it was brutal, but I don't know if I expected them to win all, but I think they were all winnable with the team we thought we had coming in preseason. As far as what do I think is going on with these guys, I think it was Sherelle McMillian, I don't know what his last name is, from the Inside Carolina podcast, and does the kind of recruiting and stuff for Inside Carolina. Kind of says there is some chemistry issues, but not in the sense like they don't get along off the court, don't hang out, all that stuff, but more in the sense of don't necessarily connect on the court, at least yet. And I think, we had that last year. We kind of talked about that. Getting Brady Manick in, obviously people finding their roles as far as Dawson Garcia. And then again, when he left, and we finally settled on pretty much 5 guys, 6 guys at the most with Puff. And I think there's some of that. I think people are still finding their roles. I think we forget about Armando sometimes. I don't think Pete Nance is kind of figuring out when he should be really assertive, when he can let other guys be more assertive. Obviously, we did start passing the ball much better as far as stat wise. In the Virginia Tech game, we only ended up with 6 assists again. But I'm going to guess, in that run we had, 4 of those maybe at least. Again, that's not very many, but I mean, there was times we were moving the ball. I remember we swung it around, and I think it was Seth got it in the corner. Threw a nice little alley oop to Pete. It was even semi-transitional. Fast break points. Let's see, fast break points here. So yeah, we had 12 fast break points against Virginia Tech. I'm gonna guess that's our most this year. They only had 10. Virginia Tech only had 10 fast break points against us. I don't think that's ever been an issue that people are breaking on us, but think of how many fast break points Carolina used to get. So we had 5 against Indiana, and I think it was that game. The commentators actually made a comment when we got our first fast break points that, this is not normal North Carolina basketball. So, I think there's some of that going on as well, as people still finding their roles, getting comfortable playing with each other. Again, we got freshmen coming in that are getting playing time. Seth Tremble, Nickel. I mean, Styles is pretty much a freshman as far as playing time goes. Still haven't really figured out that. Dunn even played less than Styles last year. He's been getting minutes. So the guys getting minutes are, again, still getting used to it, I think, as well. Again, I don't think that's an excuse. I think that's part of what's going on, though. So Wing Chu Meditation says, if anybody don't think we can beat Indiana, Duke, Michigan, Ohio State, you're stupid. Carolina was preseason number 1 in the end. you will see us dominate. I mean, I'm hoping for that. I think we have. I'm not questioning the talent. I'm not questioning that we can't do that. Um, you know, again, go back to the preseason predictions podcast. Uh, but the way we're playing, unless we figure stuff out, if and maybe that's part of these guys. They think, hey, we did it last year. We can just flip the switch and turn it on and go. But um, until you do that, we look really poor, and we're not going to get a good seed. We're not going to get into the NCAA tournament if that doesn't happen. If we keep playing exactly how this and just kind of expect something to change at some point, we're going to keep losing. And yeah, I mean, we're not the way we're playing. We're not going to beat Ohio State. We're not going to beat Michigan. We're not going to beat Duke. Again, we know that they're going to get up for Duke. Rankings and records and all that stuff goes out when we play Duke. But the way we're playing, we're not going to beat anybody of substance. Can we beat them? Yes, if we figure out how to play again. We have the talent. I'm not questioning that. So I don't think I'm jumping all the way off the bandwagon or jumping off of, I mean, I do a stinking UNC hoops podcast, for goodness sakes. Like I'm a pretty big fan, but trying to be realistic as well and figure out what's going on here. So I don't know. I'm not taking offense, Wing Chu, either. We all cope with it in different ways, but I like to think that I'm realistic and unbiased to a point to where we can call some things out the way it is. So we can't just keep saying it's going to happen. We're going to go. Could it? Can it? I mean, last year proved that it can, but things have to change for that to happen. So JB2 says he was referring to the Portland trip, Indiana, Virginia Tech portion of the schedule being brutal. Whoever scheduled us that grind needs to be charged and arrested. Yeah, I mean, I think, coming up, I still think it's, I mean, not brutal, but we still got some big games coming up. But yeah, I think the stretch that we did go through, maybe I said that wrong. I don't know. But yeah, and then he adds to Christian about it saying it wasn't brutal. Being away from Chapel Hill, the timing of the games, the fact that we only had one full practice over the time frame is tough. Yeah, for sure. I think so. So Christian says, I feel like it's been every year, the past 3 years, that every Thanksgiving week Tar Heels drop a bit. Maybe we need to look into that. Maybe it is always over Thanksgiving week. Maybe we need to just play in one of these podunk tournaments or whatever multi-team events over Thanksgiving to get some win. But I mean, we're always going to be invited to the big stuff. Maui, we're going to go when we can. The PKs, it's been every 5 years, whatever. We're going to go to those. So yeah, I don't think it's going to change. I don't know, something, but I do agree kind of with JB2 is we don't need the ACC Big Ten Challenge done yet, but we don't need to go straight from Thanksgiving to now what will be the ACC SEC Challenge or whatever they're going to call it, and then open up ACC play as well, and then they're all on the road as well. That stuff can be changed, and I mean, Virginia Tech hadn't played for a week leading up to us. They were ready. They're a well-coached team, and Indiana had a few days at home. I think their game before us was at home, and they had a few days off. They're all, it's loaded for them. It's enough for us being away, plus being during finals. I mean, I can remember, maybe this is saying my age, but I can remember when we had a huge break in December where we didn't play during finals. Again, the NCAA calls them student athletes. Why don't they give them some time to take finals? Again, I'm sure it's probably not even NCAA. They don't have any power. We've kind of seen that. It's more ESPN and the networks and stuff like that. But yeah, so the Nintendo nerd, thanks for joining again. Good to have you back. I'm not in panic mode yet. I'm cautiously patient. You are more patient than me, man. I know this team can figure it out and will dominate if they can. I agree, they can. Kind of what we're questioning is will they, or what has to happen for them to figure it out. And I want to see how this team responds after some real rest, and maybe that's what it takes. Maybe we have a week here, or almost a week here in between the Virginia Tech game and the Georgia Tech game. Maybe Hubert gets them into the gym, gets back into practice, and maybe they do kind of figure it out. If we again, it's not even about if we beat Georgia Tech or not. It would be more how we play. Uh, I think we could have lost to Indiana still, lost to Alabama still, but if it's more of the way we look and the way we're playing, that is more panic mode for me. It's just we said it when we weren't blowing out those mid majors and easier teams before we went out to Portland. We were down to Gardner Webb at half. All those, like, we just can't put a full game together. It just didn't look right. I think everybody would agree with that. It hasn't looked right. So Kelly Winstead, not sure I've seen you here. Good to have you live on the podcast. Says we are not a very athletic team. Besides Tremble and Styles, we are average and below. The skill is there, but we don't execute better. We will continue to struggle. If we don't execute better, we will continue to struggle. Not athletic. I don't think Pete Nance is athletic. I think Mondo, for his size, is somewhat athletic. He doesn't move, well and jump out of the gym and stuff like that. It's not an Antoine Jameson, Vince Carter, Adamano Okulaja. Those are the guys I grew up on. This uber athletic, but I think he moves well for his size. I think Leakey is pretty athletic. Caleb, I think he's athletic. And they have length to go with them. RJ, I think he's feisty and he's got dog in him. I don't know if I call him necessarily athletic, but obviously I think, I agree with you. Styles and Tremble are the ones that kind of jump out there, but I don't think the other guys are necessarily average or below. Besides Pete Nance, I don't think he's very athletic, but yeah, execution, I do agree is the big thing. I said it again at the end of all of the overtimes or whatever regulation of the Alabama games. There's horrendous execution there. And the good thing about that is I think that can be fixed. So Nintendo says people forget Hubert is still a new coach, make many mistakes. He did during the early season. I believe in him, think he'll learn from his mistakes. Yeah, I hope so. I agree. He's still young. That's why I said we're not to the point where it's like start looking for a replacement for Hubert or anything like that. My biggest issue is kind of the repeated stuff is, hey, I need to play my bench more this year. And then he wasn't in some of those early games, all those early games. So it's things like that. And offensively too, I think when it is execution problems, I think that's kind of on the coach. So, and again, like I said, kind of offensive sets that we're running, those kind of things too, are on the coach. And yeah, he's got to learn from those. I think he wants to play more of a pro style stuff. And, if it's not working, we gotta be able to go to something else. So Michael Daniels, new name again to me. So welcome, Michael. So our offense is not flowing. Our defense lacks toughness. Our offense is definitely not flowing. Defense, I think you're right. Toughness is part of that, but I think also defense, we've made some bad decisions as far as rotations. We've had teams that have passed the ball well and we've rotated and kept with them sometimes. And then there's other times we help off of the strong side and they get a wide open three in the corner. I don't think in today's basketball you can do that anymore. I think it was always when somebody was driving, that guy steps over in front and helps, but now they just kick it straight out to the wide open guy and he gets a wide open three and guys knock that down. Coaches are smart enough to put the right person there and they knock it down more often than not. And especially with Mondo in there, we have kind of help in the post that we don't need to help as much. I think we help too much. And I think that, probably started with Dean Smith, but back in those days you could help a lot more. But Roy and Hubert have learned into that, and it's kind of what they've been taught. And maybe it's not what Hubert's teaching though. That's the thing. We're not in practice. We don't know. Maybe Hubert's not teaching them to help off the strong side. Maybe they're just doing it anyway. But again, those are things I think on defense we're lacking. Offensively, I think there's a lot more issues. I think spacing is a big problem. Again, I think it is kind of chemistry of getting used to playing with the guys, with each other, that kind of stuff. But so JB2 says, Dan, give me your thoughts on how or why RJ and Kalo have regressed so much as shooters this season. I think this year so much percentage wise is shot selection. I mean, or well, again, it's going back to the offense that we've been running. We're doing ball screens, we're dribbling, and then we take a contested shot instead of moving the ball around and swinging it. And part of it, I think, too, is Leaky's inability on offense. It's almost like we're 5-on-4 out there. That we're leaving Leaky. He hasn't made him pay. Again, when we went on that run last year, even before the tournament, Leaky started hitting those corner threes. We felt better about Leaky hitting those, shooting them. And he shot some this year. I mean, he had games where we went 5 for 5. Guess what? We won those games. We looked a little bit better in there. But but he's also got to hit the outside shot. It can't be driving because in that people can congest the lane then. And again, I think it's Mondo and Pete getting used to playing with each other. When does Pete go into the block? When is he out on the side? It seemed to me, and it was more apparent when Mondo was out here in the Alabama game. It seemed like when when Mondo was playing, when he was in there, Pete was on the block more often. And whenever Pete was the 5 or when Mondo wasn't in there, it seemed like we were playing 5 out. Pete was out on the 3-point line. We can't space teams enough, 5 guys out on the outside of the 3-point line. Or at least, I mean, you can. We can't right now. There's no driving lanes for Caleb and RJ. And we don't have the shooters to go along with them, because if RJ's driving, I mean, people are letting Caleb kind of shoot right now. Obviously, they're letting Leaky shoot. They're letting Pete shoot. He's probably been our most consistent 3-point shooter, but they're still letting him shoot, and they're congesting that lane. There's no drive. There's no openings to drive in there. And so I think the biggest thing as far as how they're regressing as shooters is more the shots they're getting, the shots we're taking just aren't good ones, or at least aren't great ones. Kind of how we're used to at North Carolina is pass up the good one, get a great one. And again, we moved the ball so much better. And that opens up stuff for Caleb and RJ to drive. And even, some of our biggest ones were Caleb driving, dishing to Mondo, or RJ driving and dumping it off to Mondo. Or remember Caleb Love kind of driving and Brady Manick going along that baseline, back door, getting it to him for a layup in there. We just got, and some of those easy buckets just makes your offense so much better as well. And just like transition, you get some easy buckets, you get in the flow of offense. Everything looks better. Shots, and like Roy Williams always said, looks better when shots are going in. That's our biggest issue right now is kind of getting some of that stuff. So Nintendo Nerd says RJ and Caleb have been playing selfish. It feels like Caleb's particular in trying to rise his drive stack. Well, if that's the case, obviously the opposite's happening. I think people were probably as high as ever on him coming off the tournament. The way he had played, they thought, oh, he's figured out kind of how to play, when to shoot, where to shoot, when to drive, those kind of things. And if that's what he's doing, obviously he's hurting his draft stock right now by the way he's playing. So he's got to figure out how he played last year and do that again if that's what it's all about. It says they need to play for the team, not just for themselves. I think we forget, again, I've been pretty negative, and I'll stay that way when it needs to be. But we do forget that these guys are, 18, 19, 20, 21, maybe in Leaky's case 24 or something like that now. They're still young. And again, I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but I think the work that they put in, the practice time they put in, the work on their bodies, all that stuff, like they want it more than us. It's not like Caleb Love, RJ Davis, Armando Bacot, Leaky Black, they're going out there and saying like, let's just play piss poor. Let's just not try very hard. Like they want to win. Like, and again, after going on that run last year, I feel like I've said that a million times this podcast already, but they've tasted and been so close. Like, that video that came out preseason or right at the beginning of the season, like one box out away or one rebound away, like they were so close to kind of the pinnacle. Like they want to win. I just can't question that. Like, and so maybe there's some guys like, and again, I heard somebody talking about like, they're playing for NIL money now and stuff like that. Like some of that might be true, but in the end, I gotta believe that these guys still just want to win basketball games and have fun playing with their friends and stuff like that. I know there's more to it nowadays, but I don't question that too much. I don't know. And again, that doesn't mean you can play pickup ball and be selfish or have a selfish guy and that stuff. I'm not saying they're not playing selfishly or anything like that. Um, but just playing for themselves, I don't know. I kind of stopped short of that, I guess. So Kelly says ball movement has to be priority, and Hubert has to get the defense drive our offense. Fast break points needs to increase to offset going against the set defense opposite. I totally agree, but and to me that's my biggest thing. I keep going back on for Hubert is like, is he going to play the bench? Because we can't go out and outrun teams. I was just listening to I hate what's his name, Jeff Goodman. I really don't like him, but his show or whatever, Field of 68. They have John Henson on there, and that's the reason I was listening. But he was talking about the big for Purdue, Zach Edey, and like how would you guard him? And he's like, you know what? We would run him. We'd run him and we'd run him. We would run him. He would tell Tyler Zeller, "Hey, I'm going to rebound. You take off running." And by halfway, 3/4 of the way through the second half, he'd be gasping and and we'd pull away. We'd win that game. But if we're going to play an iron five, 6, 7 guys, it's going to be tougher for us to be pushing like a North Carolina team did in the past, and to be able to do that. We used to pressure a lot more, but I agree. It's got to start on defense. We got to want that. We got to make better decisions. I went through all that stuff already, and then I think we just got to pick our spots to fast break. I think rebounding has been an issue this year. I don't know why, because Pete Nance should be a better rebounder than Brady Manick was. Leakey had shown that he was doing better at rebounding this year, but we're not crashing the offensive boards. Teams are not afraid of us on the offensive board like they used to be with like a Roy Williams team. And even last year, I feel like we did better. I don't know why yet, why that is, but it's making a difference here. You can say, "Oh, yeah, we're rebounded again," but at some point that makes a big difference. Michael says, "What's going on with Styles? I thought he would explode this year. When does the transfer portal open up for basketball?" I mean, I think they can transfer at any time. I don't know why you would do it really mid-season, or I mean, if he's going to do it mid-season, it's got to be before the second semester, because I think then he could just sit out like. Well, I guess he'd probably be eligible right away next year. I don't know. But I would think if he's going to do it mid-season, it's got to be before January, like somewhere in December. But yeah, I mean, I worry about him too. I thought he should get more go. I know he missed a few shots last game, and people were like, "Oh, this is why Styles doesn't play." But you can't expect a guy just to come in and just nail everything. He gave us some great minutes against Baylor last year in the tournament. I feel like there's other games even in the tournament that gave us good minutes. I thought he would get more playing time too. Um, I don't know what to say about that. It's got to be what's happening in practice. I don't know, but like I agree with you. Like how does Hubert keep him happy, keep him around with the playing time he's got? I mean, why would he not go somewhere and just get minutes and play? I mean, unless he's just that much of a Tar Heel fan and just grew up a huge Tar Heel fan and wants to be here no matter the cost. I don't know. I really can't answer that. But all right, let's transition here. I got caught up on comments mostly here, looking at what's coming up for the Tar Heels. So we got Georgia Tech Saturday. It's a 3:15 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN. So we're still on TV here. Let's see. So that's 2:15 for me. All right, that's about right. I like those kind of games. Middle afternoon. Yeah, I mean, obviously we need this one. It's going to be big. We turn around, not a quick turnaround, but at least a 2-game homestand here. We got the Citadel coming Tuesday. That's a 7 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPN2. So I like that we're going to be able to watch them both on TV. And again, we would say both wins with Mr. Negativity before. I don't remember who it was. Trying to scroll back here. Wing Chun Meditation, you'd say, why wouldn't we win? And again, we should beat those teams at home. But yeah, stuff's got to change. We'll see. I would predict 2 wins, but not completely confident in that. I wouldn't put any money on it. Um, but and then I'll probably podcast before this, but and then we have two big games kind of back to back. So the following Saturday, December 17th, we have Ohio State in New York. That's the CBS Classic game. So obviously on CBS. And then we follow that up. We go Saturday to Wednesday, the 21st, is the Jumpman Invitational in Charlotte. That's against Michigan, and that's on ESPN at 7 p.m. Eastern tip. So and those kind of are the games that I'm circling is like, we got to win those. We got to win at least one of those. Would love to win both of those. Georgia Tech's obviously a big game because it's conference. We don't want to start 0-2 in the ACC. Um, and yeah, we got to temper expectations a little bit. I don't think we can say, hey, we're the ACC favorites anymore. Like we said already tonight, Virginia, it's got to be the favorite in the ACC. But we'd still like to be, top three. What is it? Top three get double buys, right? I feel like we were 4 last year. Weren't exactly where we want to be, so we'd like to be in that top three, but plenty of work to do, and that means starting with Georgia Tech, we don't want to go 0-2. So that's kind of what we got coming up, and yeah, it's more about kind of how the Tar Heels play. But I do think scouting comes into that. We can't just say, hey, we got to play our game. Don't worry about who we're playing. We need a scouting report. We need to know who's shooters. And again, I went through it already, but not leaving strong side guys wide open behind the 3-point line when other people drive. And again, another big question is Armando back? Is his shoulder good enough that he comes back? I'm guessing Dunn's not back, and the other person that comes into it is Jalen Washington. Hubert said this past week that in the next week he should be cleared fully to play, and so that means even for this Georgia Tech game, we would think that he's available. And I've warned people plenty on this podcast and just talking to people is like, temper your expectations for Jalen Washington. He's coming back after a year and a half of not playing basketball, being out, missing a season and a half, and now jumping up, from halfway through his junior year of high school, I think it was, to now into college and into ACC play. He's not going to. I wouldn't expect he just comes in mid form or just shooting the heck out of the ball. Give him some time. And again, does Hubert give him the time to kind of get into the rhythm? I feel like it was Tyler Nickel kind of said something in the post game. It was like, yeah, you got to be out there a while and get into the rhythm of the game and stuff like that. And that's part of building the bench. So we got to see if that happens. So Save Village says, maybe it's just me. I'm late to the party. I'm seeing a coaching issue here. He's got to do something different. We talked about that a little bit. Stay vigilant. Go back, listen to the beginning of the show. You can let me know if we didn't hit on what you're thinking about. But hold the backcourt accountable. Talked about that a little bit. Another game with single digits assists. We brought that up as well. So yeah, we're on the same page here. And again, it's not like we're calling for Hubert's head, looking for a replacement, wishing we had Wes Miller or any of that stuff. It's figuring stuff out. He's still a young coach, learning, and as long as he does that, I think we'll be okay. So the Nintendo nerd says we should beat Georgia Tech, but I said that about both Iowa State and Virginia Tech, and yet we are here. Let's hope we prove us right this time. Yeah, I agree completely there. I didn't know Iowa State was the way they are. They were a good team, and they've jumped into our rankings, and they've continued to look good. So ahead of the game, I said we should have won, but I don't think it's a horrible loss. Again, besides the way we look, that was horrible. Virginia Tech as well. Yeah, I mean, it was at Blacksburg, so it's not a horrible loss, but it's more the way that we played, and yeah, we got to figure stuff out. And I think we should have won that game because we were even within 3 with 3 minutes left the way we had looked. So if we would have looked, decent, or if we would have had Mondo, I think we get that win. But it is time to kind of prove us right here and to move forward, and that's what we're going to do. Hopefully, starting on Saturday. So stay vigilant. It says something's off, or Brady Manick was just that good for this team, but one guy ? That does not make sense. So I mean, again, he was kind of perfect, and I think beyond just his skills to his mentality. I mean, we've talked about that. It's been talked about anyway, to kind of the mentality he brought and kind of the dog and leadership that he brought, all that stuff. But yeah, it's not that we can't find somebody else or don't have anybody else that can do that. We just gotta again get it figured out here. Unfortunately, we just got to do it quickly. It's got to happen soon. So um, I think I've gone long enough, guys. Man, I truly appreciate the people that jump on here live and give me the comments, but also the people that comment later that couldn't catch it live, listen to it on the audio podcast. Love you guys. Again, make sure you are subscribed wherever you do listen. But also, if you could do me a favor and go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe there, and like the videos, guys. And I've been doing the shorts for the scores prediction podcast. Like those, get those out there so that they're getting around and getting more. We get more people contributing to the scores prediction podcast, and get your score prediction in every game day. Come search it out on Twitter or YouTube. It's there, either the video or a tweet with the video link there. Give me your prediction, and let's keep it rolling, and yeah, keep this channel going. We've gotten a lot of new subscribers since the last podcast with Gil. That one really did well. You guys like to see Gil back. I don't know how I should take that, but I do appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys. Um, yeah, Lori says, thanks, Dan. Thank you guys. Nintendo Nerd says, praying for a bounce back. Go Heels. That's right. That's about what I got here. Thank you for joining me tonight or whenever you're listening. And until next time, go Heels.